Works good? Okay. We're now on the second portion, which is actually the appendicular skeleton. The appendicular skeleton consists of two girdles, the pectoral girdle, and then you have your pelvic girdle, and then you have your upper limbs and your lower limbs. For the sake of our lab, also, I will only discuss those that are needed in our lab. The first bone that I want to make mention is your clavicle. The clavicle contains two parts. One actually is your the lateral end, which is actually flat, and then you got the medial end, which is actually triangular in shape. You will notice in here, especially for your appendicular skeleton, that it's very important that you know your point of reference, like where is this your right bone or left bone? If you look at your this clavicle, there is a part here which is actually called your conoid tubercle, and that is a point of reference. Conoid tubercle should always be at posterior and on the upper posterior up, or posterior portion on the superior part. If that is the case, this is medial, that is lateral, that is posterior up, and so that will be my right. Don't forget also that the clavicle is one of the last bone that will be ossified also up to age 25. The second bone that I want to make mention is your scapula. This is your scapula. Point of reference actually is your spine. Spine is always dorsal. And your glenoid cavity, that one there, is always lateral. So if this is dorsal and that is lateral, so if you think about it, this is actually my left bone. Coming from, again, from your spine that I made mention earlier, at the end of that is your acromion, that actually articulates with the flat bone of the lateral end also of your clavicle. Then again, this is your spine. On top of your spine are two fossa. Fossa is a depression. This on top of the spine, this is your supraspinous fossa. Below the spine is your infraspinous fossa, and on the ventral side of the spine is your subscapular fossa. Those fossa is very important because they are the point of attachment of your rotator cuff muscle. Like in your supraspinous fossa is your supraspinatus, infraspinous fossa, infraspinatus, and subscapular fossa, that is your subscapularis. The next bone is your humerus. Your humerus actually has a head. That one there is the head of the humerus. Then you got two tubercle or process in your humerus. This is your greater tubercle and this is your lesser tubercle. You will notice in here, point of reference again, your head is always medial. If you look at also this bone, you can see a line in here. That is your epiphyseal line, where you have your epiphyseal plate inside, which indicates this line here indicates that this is a child's bone. On the distal portion of your humerus actually are two condyles, that one there. In line with your head is your trochlea, and in line with on the lateral portion here is your capitulum. Trochlea in line with your head, capitulum. Since this is actually a condyle, On top of this is your medial epicondyle and lateral epicondyle, which are actually a point of attachment of so many arm, brachial, and forearm muscle. You'll notice in here also that you have also two fossa. The anterior fossa is actually your coronoid fossa, and which is shallow, and your olecranon fossa is posterior, and that is deep. Again, if your head is medial and your coronoid fossa is anterior, so this will be my right arm. Then you have your ulna. If you think about your ulna in your body is always medial. If you think about it, to remember it easier, U, this is like letter U. U is for ulna. Or you can look at it like this. It looks like a cobra. See the mouth of the cobra? Or it can look like an ice cream scoop like this. There are three important parts in here. One is your olecranon process, your trochlear notch, and your coronoid process. To help you remember that, olecranon process is O, this is your trochlear notch is T, and this is your coronoid process, and that is your C. To remember that, olecranon process is O, trochlear notch is T, and your coronoid process is C, and that is OTC, which is our school. And you will notice also in here, this is your styloid process of your ulna. Don't forget that your ulna is always medial in line with your pinky over here. Then you have your, if you look at this one again, don't forget that a process oftentimes goes to a fossa. So your olecranon process can go to your olecranon fossa when your forearm is an extension. And then if your forearm is in flexion, your coronoid process goes to your coronoid fossa when your forearm is in flexion. Okay, now don't forget also in your body, this is your styloid process of your ulna. Then this is your radius. You have two general parts, the head and the styloid process of the radius. The head is round. Round is for radius. Again, radius is actually on the lateral side of your upper limb. It is always in line with your thumb. So if this is the styloid process of the radius, then this is your styloid process of the radius, which is very important because half an inch of that is your radial pulse. You can feel your radial pulse. The next part in here is your manus. There are three general parts of the manus. You got your carpal, which is your wrist, those group of bones. Another group of bones is your metacarpal, which is your palm, and this is your phalanges, which is your fingers. If you look at your point of reference here is your thumb. Thumb is always lateral. There are two bones in your phalanges of your thumb and three on your four fingers. That one there, 1, 2, 3, 4, proximal, middle, distal, proximal, middle, distal, proximal, middle, distal, proximal, middle, distal. Then coming from your thumb again, you have your metacarpal. You'll notice in here that they are actually numbered according to coming from the thumb. Metacarpal 1, metacarpal 2, metacarpal 3, metacarpal 4, metacarpal 5. Then you got your carpal bones. You got 4 proximal in here and 4 distal. I want to look at the distal first, coming from the thumb. The first carpal bone is attached to the first metacarpal. It is called as your trapezium. And if you look at it, it looks like there's a saddle in here. And the trapezium is actually is standing on here, the first trapezium. So that is called as a saddle joint, because it's a saddle, and riding in that saddle is the first trapezium, or is your metacarpal one. The second one is actually your trapezoid attached to your metacarpal 2. The next one actually is your capitate attached to metacarpal 3. And the last one, I want to put this on the other side. That one there is your hamate. And if you look at it, it has a hook, see? That's why it's called hamate, humulus, attached to metacarpal 4 and 5. Then you have your proximal portion. This is your scaphoid, the biggest one, which is in line with your thumb. And then this is your this is your lunate. And then this is your triquetrum, and on top of the triquetrum is your PC form. And you can feel that one here in your hand like this. That's your PC form. The next bone that I want to make mention is actually your pelvic bone, or the coxal bone, or the os coxae, or the innominate. There are 3 parts: the ilium, which is actually the superior portion, the ischium, which is the dorsal, and the pubis anterior. So then you got your acetabulum here, which is actually the socket for your head of the femur. Then you got your iliac crest, which I have explained before. It is a point of reference, and iliac fossa, if you look at that one. Then you have your ischial tuberosity, which is actually your sitting bone. The next bone that I want to make mention actually is your femur. The femur has a head and a neck. This is your greater trochanter. That is your lesser trochanter. Head is always medial. Always remember that. If that is medial, this is your medial condyle, lateral condyle. If this is your medial condyle, lateral condyle, on top of that is your medial epicondyle, lateral epicondyle. And one important part here is also your patellar surface, which is always anterior. And because that is anterior, if this is medial and that is anterior, and that is my left also. And then you got your tibia. Tibia is always in line with your big toe. Point of reference in here is the medial malleolus. Medial malleolus is always medial. So if this is medial, medial condyle, lateral condyle. Another important part here is the tibial tuberosity, if you look at that one. That is a point of attachment, actually, of the tendon of your quadriceps muscle. And that is where, that is the one which is hit by the rubber hammer by the doctor, if ever also that he will test for patellar reflex also. And the next one actually is your fibula. If you look at this one here, there are 2 general parts. The head, there's a notch there, okay, and your lateral malleolus, which is actually flat, which actually goes with your that part there of your that part there of your tibial bone. last one that I want to make mention is your pedis. There are three parts, three groups of bones, phalanges, your metatarsal, and all of this is your tarsal. Just like your hand, your point of reference is your big toe. Big toe is always medial. And so, if you look at this one, there are two bones in your big toe, proximal, distal, and all the rest have three bones, proximal, middle, distal. Then you have your metatarsal. That is actually, if you look at this one here, metatarsal 1, metatarsal 2, metatarsal 3, metatarsal 4, metatarsal 5. One thing that I want to make mention in here, all of this is your tarsals. The biggest bone is your calcaneus, followed by your talus. The talus is attached to navicular. And on the other side here is your cuboid, that one there. And then you got three bones attached to your navicular. In line with your big toe, medial cuneiform, intermediate cuneiform, lateral cuneiform. Or you can say it this way, cuneiform number 1, cuneiform number 2, cuneiform number 3. That's it.